Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. This is a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The most important news and editorial of the day that is relevant for both prelims and mains examination of civil services will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 30th of September. The first important news that is single women can get equal abortion right, a landmark judgment coming from the Supreme Court. Second, the draft telecommunication bill. This is from the text and context page of the Hindu. Third, UNESCO list 50 iconic Indian textile. कुछ इंडिया के ऐसे 50 आयोनिक जो टेक्सटाइल्स हैं उनको इंक्लूड की गई है यूनेस्को के लिस्ट में. Fourth, India want a relationship of mutual sensitivity with China. This is what the External Affairs Minister has said in his official statement. And the last is an editorial navigating the headwind, right? Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video, there will be MCQ based questions. And these questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And before I start the session, those of you who are new to our channel, do not forget to subscribe Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services on YouTube. If you like this video, if you find this video informative and helpful, do press a like button. The first news of the day, that is single women get equal abortion right. Something important for General Studies paper 2, that is structure, organization, function of executive and judiciary, and also important for General Studies paper 1 under the women empowerment issues. So in the historic judgment, the apex court, that is the Supreme Court of India, has recently declared that the single women with pregnancy between 20 to 24 weeks are entitled to access the same safe and legal abortion care as the married women. तो जो conditions married women पे अप्लाई होती हैं इंडिया के abortion laws में, the same law is going to apply for a single woman. It's a landmark, it's a historic judgment that was appreciated from various stakeholders across the country, across every corner. Now, previously, India abortion law says that the married women could get aborted up to 24 weeks into their pregnancy, but single women has a limitation to 20 weeks only. तो ये कुछ पहले की बेसिकली लॉज हैं जिसको सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने चेंज किया है एंड दे हैव अलाउड नाउ अ सिंगल वुमन टू गेट अबॉर्टेड ऑफ द चाइल्ड बाय 24 वीक्स एज वेल. नाउ इंसेप्शंस ऑफ लीगल अबॉर्शंस लॉ इन इंडिया की अगर बात करें किस टाइम से अबॉर्शंस इंडिया में लीगल हुई है. सो अबॉर्शन हैज़ बीन लीगल इन इंडिया सिंस 1971, नॉट बिफोर दैट, एंड दिस वाज अंडर द मेडिकल टर्मिनेशन of Pregnancy Act, and in 2021 the law was amended, allows certain categories of women included, that include the married women who were divorced, who were widowed, the minor, the rape victims, mentally ill women to opt in the abortions. खास करके अगर abortions की बात करें 24 weeks के लिए in particular sections of women के लिए allow की गई है from 20 weeks. So for these category of women's, दिस बेसिकली ये जो कैटेगरीज अमेंडमेंट में लाई गई हैं उनके लिए 24 अलाउ की गई थी, बट नॉट फॉर द सिंगल वुमेन. सो द पॉइंट टू बी नोटेड, नाउ फॉर द सिंगल वुमेन द वीक्स इज 24 now. I'll give you a comparison for the recent amendment that was made in the later part of the video. Now, but this changes does not include the single women, right? Causing many to questions that why there's a difference on the law on the basis of a marital status. Now, the court said that denying single women as the same access to abortion violated the right to equality before the law under the Indian Constitution. तो हमारी जो संविधान है, हमारी जो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन है, that called for right to equality. Then why these category of people should only be given exemptions for 24 months and not the single women? So now finally, after the apex court decision, after the Supreme Court decision, this has become a history in our India, right? Now NTP की बात करें 1971 और MTP की एक्ट 2021 में क्या चेंजेस किए गए. सो फर्स्ट इट अप्लाइज ओनली टू मैरिड वुमेन. नाउ अनमैरिड वुमेन वेर ऑल्सो कवर्ड. इनिशियली जो गेस्टेशन एज लिमिट थी वो 20 वीक्स थी, इसको बढ़ा करके 24 वीक की गई फॉर द रेप सर्वाइवर एंड बियॉन्ड विच 24 वीक्स ऑफ द सब्सटैंशियल फीटर एबनॉर्मलिटीज। अगर डॉक्टर्स की कमिटी ने एबनॉर्मलिटीज को फाइनल किया है, अप्रूव किया है, देन ओनली 24 वीक्स गो। दिस इज अबाउट द अमेंडमेंट दैट वाज मेड इन 2021. Now, the other changes, that is the 12 week, then this has reached up to 20 weeks. For 2 RMP, it's 20 weeks, it's 20 to 24 weeks, right? And fine up to 1,000 rupees was there in MTP 1971, and this has increased the fine as well as imprisonment, right? तो फाइन के साथ साथ imprisonment भी बढ़ाई गई है नए अमेंडमेंट के हिसाब से। Now, looking into the global scenario की यहाँ पे context काफ़ी important है आपके लिए समझना, because a law that is passed by any country, a judgment that is passed by any country has an impact on other country as well. तो abortions law की अगर बात करें, ये एक ऐसी contagious issue है that impact across the world. It has a impression across the world, जहाँ पे एक precedent set की जाती है एक countries के law या फिर वहाँ के judgment के through. So citing an example like recently जो US की सुप्रीम कोर्ट है, उन्होंने अपने जजमेंट में जो रॉय वर्सेस वेड की जजमेंट थी उसको रिवर्स किया एंड दे हैव सेड दैट द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल राइट ऑफ अबॉर्शन व्हिच वाज देयर इन द रॉय वर्सेस द वेड जजमेंट हैज बीन रिवर्स। तो ये एक जजमेंट थी जिसकी इंप्रेशन वर्ल्ड वाइड हुई, एंड इवन फॉर द रीसेंट जजमेंट दैट वाज गिवन बाय द सुप्रीम कोर्ट रिसेंटली, तो सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने इसको ओवरटर्न किया और इंडिया के जो लॉज है राइट टू इक्वालिटी उसको अपहोल्ड किया, एंड इवन इट विल क्रिएट impression where all other countries will definitely look into the consideration what India did. So internationally judgment affect each other, and this is a landmark one because it recognizes the women right and a body and a reproductive freedom regardless of what government legislature might be. So this is an individual reproductive freedom and right to her body, right to her life, right to equality that is prevailing. The historic judgment of the Supreme Court to access abortion was welcome and progressive and a ray of hope at the time when the sexual and reproductive rights come under the global threat. Because US में भी डिसीजन रिवर्स की गई है, उस कंटेक्स्ट में इंडिया की जो जजमेंट है एक प्रेसिडेंट सेट कर सकती है। एंड इफ यू गेट अ चांस इन मेंस राइटिंग अबाउट ऑल द वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट एंड इश्यूज रिलेटेड टू दिस, डू इंश्योर कि आप इस तरह की एग्जाम्पल वहाँ पे जरूर लिखें। Now, observation that was made by the Supreme Court, right? कोर्ट ने क्या बातें कही हैं? So basically, this judgment was given by Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. The bench was headed by him itself. So the court said that 8 women die every day in India due to unsafe abortion. This is the reality in our country, and 67% of abortions are carried out between 2007 and 2018 were classified unsafe. तो बहुत सारी ऐसी issues हैं जो इंडिया में concerned है। Illegal abortion is continuing a crisis, especially among unmarried women. और MTP अगर amendment की बात करें जो latest amendment है 2021, that include the term partner to show that the law was not just concerned about within the marriage itself, right? The court said that artificial distinctions between the married and unmarried women was not constitutionally sustainable because we have right to equality for each and every individual. The state would be stripping like single women of autonomy for their bodies and living with the focus to carry out unwanted pregnancy to the full term. And reproductive autonomy की अगर बात करें, this include the right to choose whether or not she would have an abortion, because a woman should not require a permission from the third party to abort. This is what categorically was observed by the Supreme Court in its judgment. Now the other news, that is the draft Telecommunications Bill 2022, something relevant for General Studies Paper 3, that is the government policies intervention for the development of various sector and issues arising from a design and implementation, right? So this topic is actually from General Studies Paper 2 and not Paper 3. So the Ministry of Communications has released a draft of Indian Communication Bill 2022 that was recently there for the public comments. And the Minister of Communication has stated that bill will become a law within 6 to 10 months. So in very soon, government is planning to implement this rule. क्या है draft telecommunications bill की detail? So you must know, because this is going to be important for the prelims examination, and even a question can be framed for the mains as well. So the draft telecommunication bill aims to attempt by the government is to update the extant regulatory framework in keeping the advancement and challenges that is there in the sector. बहुत सारी ऐसे परेशानी है राइट टू प्राइवेसी OTT के प्लेटफॉर्म्स के बारे में. We'll see each and every one just to give you an overview about this. So this is a much needed reform that required 3 legislation to be updated because ये सारी जो legislation इंडिया में अभी रेगुलेट होती है that is almost 70-year-old. ये कौन सी laws regulation इंडिया में जो operational है. The first is Indian Telegraph Act 1885, Indian Wireless Telegraph Act that was enacted in 1933, and Telegraph Wire Unlawful Prohibition Act 1950. So still India is operating with all these laws. Now the Indian Telecommunication Bill looks to repeal all 3 legislation and restructure the legal and regulatory framework of the telecommunication sector. So this is a major basically pitch that the government has come up with to reform the entire telecommunications law. The ड्राफ्ट टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस बिल की बात करें किस तरह से OTT प्लेटफॉर्म या सर्विसेज इफेक्ट होंगे. सो ओवर द टॉप कम्युनिकेशंस की अगर बात करें दिस सर्विसेज रेफर टू सर्विस दैट प्रोवाइड रियल टाइम पर्सन कम्युनिकेशन सर्विस. राइट, एक जो पर्सन टू पर्सन टेलीकम्युनिकेशंस होती है वो OTT सर्विसेज के अंदर आती है. कुछ एग्जाम्पल के अगर तौर पे देखें व्हाट्सएप, टेलीग्राम, सिग्नल, मैसेंजर, डुओ, गूगल मीट, these are the example of OTT services, right? And a platform they use is basically a network structure of telecom service provider जिसको TSP भी कहते हैं. आप भी किसी भी ना किसी TSP को यूज करके ही इंटरनेट के सर्विसेज को यूज कर पाते होंगे, राइट? लाइक एयरटेल, वोडाफोन, जियो. These are basically categorized as a TSP, right? Now इन्होंने क्या बात कही है कि that the voice call and SMS services are not being used because of the OTT platform, right? तो TSP ने allege किया है कि ये जितनी प्लेटफॉर्म है लाइक गूगल मीट, डुओज, ये सारी ऐसे फ्री सर्विसेज दे रहे हैं जो कि टीएसपी के रेवेन्यूज को इम्पैक्ट करिए बिकॉज पीपल आर नॉट गोइंग फॉर वॉइस कॉलिंग और एसएमएस, राइट? सो दिस इज द कंसर्न रेज्ड बाय द टीएसपीज. देयरफॉर TSPs has been demanding a level playing field for the OTT services as well. Consumer protections की अगर बात करें इस ड्राफ्ट बिल में क्या रखी गई है, what are the points and what are the concern that has been taken care of for the consumer point of view. Now to curtail the ever increasing evidences of spam and fraud call, the draft bill poses an identity of a person communicating using a form of telecommunication service that shall be available to user who is receiving the call. तो आपको पता होगा आप किसके कॉल रिसीव कर रहे हैं with all the details. This would mean that unlike now, only the phone number of a person is visible. Now the communication will be displayed going forward with a name that will also be displayed. Now, as per the communication minister, this facility will not only be available for the voice call but also for the OTT communication services. So the eligibility criteria is both for voice call as well as for the OTT platform. Now, to ensure the user provide correct information, the draft will even call for the penalty and the penal provisions. अगर wrong identity दी गई है किसी के द्वारा तो 50,000 की पेनल्टी भी रखी गई है उसमें. ना ड्राफ्ट बिल के प्रोविजंस की अगर बात करें इंटरनेट शटडाउन्स को लेकर के, so for the first time the Indian legal framework have a specific provisions that enables the government to order the suspension of internet power has been introduced through the draft bill, right? Currently suspension of internet की अगर बात करें जो temporary suspension of internet services की जाती है during the public emergency, that is under the rule 2017, that is telecommunication services public emergency and public safety rule 2017, that has been made under the Indian Telegraph Act of 1885. तो यहाँ पे भी changes की गई हैं और internet shutdown की power भी और increase की गई है. Now, how does the bill facilitate the TSPs? TSP को कैसे जो telecommunication service providers हैं उनको कैसे benefits होंगे? The draft bill clear up a lot of confusion around the allocation of spectrum. Now, it allows the TSP to exploit spectrum resources fully to enable sharing, trading, leasing, surrendering, and even returning the unutilized spectrum. अगर कोई spectrum unutilized है तो वो return कर सकेंगे. The bill simplifies the process of restructuring first, merging second, and the third is demerging. So this 3 things will also be allowed, and the draft allow the fund under the Universal Service Obligation Fund, जिसको USOF भी कहते हैं, right, to be utilized for the purpose other than urban area connectivity, research, expanding the current mandate, and limiting the aspect of इनहेंसिंग रूरल कनेक्टिविटी। तो ये काफ़ी इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक है, ये पॉइंट है। आप इसे जो USOF के बारे में अगर सवाल पूछे जाए, दिस कैन बी अ पॉसिबल स्टेटमेंट इन द प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन। Now moving to the other news, that is UNESCO lists 50 iconic Indian textile, something important for General Studies Paper 1, Indian culture with salient feature, art form, literature, architecture from ancient to modern times. So recently, UNESCO has released the 50 exclusive and iconic heritage textile of Indian textile, जो textile crafts हैं इंडिया की. Basically, we're looking into the important aspects कि कौन-कौन सी चीज़ों को include की गई, because there can be a direct question which can be framed in this particular section, right? So safeguarding the traditions of Indian textile lists the historic and legend behind the textile, describing the complicated and secret progress behind making the process and cause them dividing the popularity, provide strategy for their preservations. The list of Indian textile जो include की गई है, that is the Toda embroidery and Sugandhi from Tamil Nadu. All this name is important. You can take the screenshot and even you can search for the images, right? We are not getting some images because that is a copyright issue that can emerge. So you can check the Google images and you can check out for particular embroideries of the textile. The other is Himru from Hyderabad, Band Thai and the Sambalpur in Odisha. From south is Ikkal Banjara embroidery from Karnataka, right? There is Sikkal Naik and Pet from Kalmari, that is from Tanjavur. Kunbi weaves from Goa. Mashu weaves and Patola from Gujarat. Himru from Maharashtra and Garad Kiroral from West Bengal. Now, some of the iconic handicraft textile that was documented from North India was keys from Panipat, Chamba rumals from Himachal Pradesh, Tigma or wool dyes from Ladakh, and Awadh Jamaitni from Varanasi. So these were some of the important handicrafts. क्या क्या चैलेंजेस हैं इस सेक्टर को लेकर के, टेक्सटाइल सेक्टर की खासी बात की जाए, यूनेस्को ने कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स हाईलाइट किए हैं. अकॉर्डिंग टू यूनेस्को, one of the major challenges is to safeguard the intangible cultural heritage in South Asia that lacks the proper inventory and documentation. So this is a concern and challenge. And second, the publications aims to bridge the gap and bring together the year of research on the 50 selected textile, ताकि इन सेक्टर्स के लोगों को प्रमोट की जाए और इनकी जो प्रमोशंस है वो ग्लोबल लेवल पे हो सके. Now, the news, that is India want a relationship of mutual sensitivity with China, something important for General Studies Paper 2, that is India and its neighborhood relations. So India's External Affairs Minister in the latest statement said that India sought a relationship with China, but one that was built on a mutual respect. So India definitely do not want that whatever promise that was made by the Chinese government has not been fulfilled in terms of the escalation that has took place in the eastern Ladakh region. So his comment was made at the press briefing in Washington DC, where he was basically looking into the statement that was made by Chinese ambassador into India, claiming that the situation in line of actual control, that is LAC in the eastern Ladakh region, was normalized and overstable. This statement was given by a Chinese ambassador, right? But the government of India has not actually confirmed the statement. They said there's a mutual disconnect what the statement says and what is the practicality. Now, China, which has a terror dispute with many countries, is a strategic in Indo-Pacific region and has been opposing US proactive policy specifically for the South China Sea. Quad की grouping की अगर बात करें उसको भी चाइना ने avoid किया है या फिर उसको officially नहीं recognize किया. Now, India and China have withdrawn frontline troops from two banks, that is the Pongong and Gorkha Hot Springs 16, after more than 24 rounds of diplomatic military talk took place. However, there has been no forward moving from the friction point of the Demchok and Deepsai. So India is waiting for China to move their troops and basically come to a conclusion which was actually promised. Following the Eastern Ladakh standoff, India has been consistently maintaining the peace line of actual controls was for the key overall development of the ties that has state of the border, which will determine the state of relationship between both India and China. And India has been vocal about the part that until and unless these demands are made on the line of actual control in the Eastern Ladakh region, India is not going to have any positive aspects of mutual negotiation or talks. Now, moving to the editorial of the day, that is the navigation of the headwind, something important for General Studies Paper 3, that is Indian economy and issues related to planning, mobilization, resource growth, and development. So, in this editorial, the theme is India's macroeconomic conditions, and I'll be looking into three important aspects, that is, on the external front, impact on India, and the bottom line. So looking into the background, अगर बात करें ग्लोबल कंडीशंस की सेंट्रल बैंक्स को लेकर के, द ग्लोबल सेंट्रल बैंक बैटलिंग विद परसिस्टेंट इन्फ्लेशनरी प्रेशर्स जो कि नर्चर हुई है डोमेस्टिक डिमांड की वजह से भी, और कुछ ऐसी बैलेंसेस जो कि स्लो डाउन हुई है ग्लोबल इकोनॉमी या ग्लोबल रिसेशन। फॉरेन एक्सचेंज रिजर्व्स की अगर बात करें, दैट हैज एक्यूमुलेटेड because of the ultra loose global monetary policy that has been utilized at the same global monetary policy from the rapidly reversing. We have seen that the de-escalations, even because of the Russia, Ukraine, and even the Fed Reserve जहाँ से उन्होंने रेट इंक्रीज किए, तो कुछ वॉटिलिटी उस हिसाब से भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा बढ़ी है इकोनॉमी। Now, given the extreme volatile situation, incomplete domestic recovery after the post-COVID-19 pandemic, nascent credit cycle and inflation outlook are the three most important factors. इसी तीन कंटेक्स्ट में अगर देखें, then the rupees adjustment growth could be helping to reduce the burden of fiscal monetary policy for calibrating both external, that is the current account deficit, and the balance of payment to the internal, that is inflationary growth and balances. Now, external front की अगर बात करें, Indian merchandise export को देखें, that has a high record of nearly 430 billion that for 2021-22. Global demand has loose fiscal and monetary policy due to the pandemic and prominent drivers. India capitalized this demand marginally by increasing the global export. अगर बात करें कुछ ऐसे इंपॉर्टेंट आर्टिकल्स हैं जिसमें मेटल प्रोडक्शंस हैं, मशीनरीज हैं, जेम्स, ज्वेलरीज, टेक्सटाइल्स आर अमंग द सेक्टर्स दैट हैज अ पोटेंशियल फॉर इंडिया. Apart from the increase, there were also the commodity price increase. However, a record high of export were accompanied by the record high of imports also. Now, current account deficit अगर देखें 1.2% of the GDP विटनेस की गई है रिजर्व बैंक के मुताबिक. जो हमारी फॉरेक्स रिजर्व है, that has rose up to 165 billion since the start, and it has reached up to peak of basically close to 642 billion for September 2021. Global situation of Russia-Ukraine war has also further aggravated the situations and put up the inflationary pressures. Supply side have now added the headwind to the looming energy crisis. And China once again has full option of global slowdown and flattering too. So this situation has been cumulative in overall performance of the economy. So what was the impact that was seen on India? So India is unlikely to be immune from this global headwind because India is also a country that has seen a lot of turmoil and lot of up and downwards in the economy. Even the global environment is turning. India's domestic recovery has been relatively steady. Global monetary policy and geopolitics has also shifted into a different cycle that what investor has experimented in the past 2 to 3 decades. While India remained one of the most favored destination in comparison to the emerging market peers and rode ahead of challenging in terms of the attraction flows. Since the beginning of the war, the rupees has depreciated by 6% against the dollar. और अगर current account deficit की बात करें, this is 3.5 to 4% of the GDP this particular year. Now, concluding this editorial of the bottom line, the MPC is likely to increase the repo rate by 50 basis points because this is the only option that is left with the Reserve Bank of India, right? And its September policy that will terminate around 6.25%. What essentially is required in the longer run, that considering the global macroeconomic environment, India policy need to be finely balanced, allowing more flexible currency movement with a moderate monetary policy hikes. तो हाइक्स को कम करने की जरूरत पड़ेगी, बट अगेन दैट हैज टू बी सीन इन द कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ ग्लोबल सिचुएशन ऑल्सो. ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ डोमेस्टिक कंडीशंस को देख करके ही डिसीजन ली जाएगी. वी हैव टू टेक इनटू कंसिडरेशन ऑफ दैट पार्ट ऑल्सो. RBI is the body which is well equipped to deal with this problem. So definitely in a longer run, this is the only option that will be left with the RBI. Now moving to the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. So first question, the correct option is C. For second question, the correct option is B. Today's MCQ questions. आपको बताना है इनर लाइन परमिट के बारे में. ILP is issued by the Union Ministry for Home Affairs. The system is today enforced in northeastern state of Arunachal Pradesh, Nagaland, Mizoram and Manipur. So do check it out for the correct option. Second is COVAX. That the COVAX is a program led by Vaccine Alliance Gavi and the World Health Organization and the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovations. The aim of the program is to ensure equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines globally. So do check it out for the correct option. This type of the question might be relevant for the upcoming prelims examination. And this was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can let me know. I'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.